we also grew up in a home where social justice was front and center. So I told you that we grew up in Cape Town, and my dad opened our home as an ANC safe house. So when the ANC was in exile, we would house ANC activists. So it was a very exciting time to live in. I was very fortunate to live through the dismantling of the apartheid time in South Africa. We had activists building petrol bombs in our garage. We had police storming our home and tear gassing our home while I was doing homework at the table. And that sense of fighting for what's right, I think, has permeated through into my parenting style, with what's going on in the world at the moment. It's very important for my kids to know where they stand on certain issues, that it's not okay to see wars and suffering and injustice and not know what side of that you fall, and where you have questions or where you don't understand those issues.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Moments with Nyengeterai. I hope you're all keeping well, and before we start, I just want to say thank you for the love, the messages. I'm enjoying the messages, especially the topics that you want us to talk about, the people that you want me to bring, and also just the amount of sharing. Someone said that they started following me on Instagram because someone sent them a link from one of the YouTube interviews that we did. So thank you so much for sharing. It means a lot. So please don't forget to go and subscribe. Please subscribe so the community can continue to grow. So today I have an amazing guest. So she's a friend. She's a parent. We've had long business work together, and every time we see each other, we can go for years without seeing each other, or for months. But when we do connect, the conversations just amazing. It's like we just left off from yesterday, But I just want to introduce you to an amazing lady, Farzana. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Nyenge. I'm so happy to see you after so many years.
I mean, right? And here we were supposed to have coffee in Cape Town that didn't happen. And I was just like,
it got life.
To happen, but life and our lives are just crazy. So, Farzana, please introduce yourself to my 12 viewers, who you are, what's your call to fame.
Thanks, Nyenge. So, I'm Farzana, and I have been in the health and wellness space for the last 20 years. We own Pro Fitness Health Club. I also am the CEO of a data innovation company called Victus Data, and we operate in population health initiatives and solutions. So we're doing some really exciting stuff. But I have 4 babies.
Babies?
Not babies anymore.
I know, right? She says babies. Please can you tell me the ages of your 4 babies?
So I've got 3 daughters, aged 21, 19, soon to be 17. And my little prince came after many years, and he's 11. So, and then of course, I've got the husband, so he can, count as the 5th child.
5th child, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
The feeling.
So, originally from Cape Town and moved to Zimbabwe in 2002. And you can imagine moving from Cape Town to Zimbabwe in 2002. It was challenging, but it was also my baptism of fire, so to speak. I kind of felt that living in Cape Town then, you were defined by the roles. I was in corporate. I worked for the V&A Waterfront in their marketing department. In fact, I ran their e-marketing portfolio. So I was responsible for all e-commerce and website development. And of course, 22 years ago, that was a very new space to operate in.
Very, very new.
And I met my husband on the internet, just to drop that in there. So, so coming to Zimbabwe was very scary, but it peeled away many layers of definition. And, I think those challenges kind of revealed who I really am.
I want to go back to, you met your husband on the internet.
Oh,
Tell me a little bit about that. How you met and how he convinced you to come to Zimbabwe.
So it was it's a very funny story, because back then, and when I tell people now that I met my husband on the internet, they actually say, was the internet like available when you were a youngster? So we met on, and it wasn't a dating site. It was just a chat room. So I was actually chatting with family members over in the UK, and when you had a handle, it's not as sophisticated as it is now. Where you have images, and it was very flat, so to speak. And he popped up on my screen, this random stranger, and hi. And I thought to myself, like, who is this dude? Who is this person, like, on my screen? Anyway, we started chatting. I found out that he was from Zimbabwe, and I was obviously from Cape Town. And then he said he wanted my number. And I said, oh, no. You could turn out to be, Jack the Ripper, and, random axe murderer. And he just insisted and insisted and insisted. And Nyenge, at the end of that first conversation, I actually gave him my number.
Are you serious?
And my last few words to him were, let the games begin.
Oh my gosh.
And anyway, we kind of chatted, via phone, for a bit, and we decided to meet face to face after a month. And I said to him, listen, I'm not coming to Zimbabwe, and you're not coming to Cape Town. Let's meet on neutral territory, so that if we don't like each other, I'll have a fun weekend in Joburg, and you have a fun weekend in Joburg, and we'll go on our merry ways. And we met on a Tuesday afternoon.
You still remember?
I do remember, because he proposed on the Thursday.
What?
Yes.
He was fast.
So, we met the Tuesday, proposed the Thursday, and that Sunday he flew with me back to Cape Town to come and ask my dad for my hand in marriage. But I knew that I was not going to get married emotionally. I was always very kind of logically driven. I'm not an emotional kind of person, so I knew that I was going to make the decision to marry in a very logical, clinical, sterile way. He ticked the right boxes. He looked good on paper, and love wasn't necessarily the most important thing on my ideal marriage material list. I didn't have to love him. I believed that I would grow to love the right man, and that happiness is a decision, and that marrying is a commitment to a certain set of ideals, and love didn't fit into that for me. And I did not love him when I got married to him, but do I love him now? Absolutely, with all my heart. And it was 22 years later. Yes.
Oh my word. But you know what I love what you said is that, he had to tick all the right boxes, and you'd eventually fall in love. I was saying that at the time, we were just talking with a group of friends, and we're saying, with the way things are going around in the world, and I was like, sometimes I feel like I wish I could just organize a man, because you've seen the family grow, him, and just organize him for my daughter. And then I'm sure along the way they will fall in love. As long as he's ticking the right boxes, we know how we've raised her, and we want the best, because I'm so worried about the way the world is right now.
And arranged marriages statistically have the highest success rates because they take into consideration the ethos in which you were raised, family values, family principles, similar morals and ethics, and you cut out a lot of the guessing. But Shamim and I actually went for marriage classes before we got married, and we had some really hard conversations. Well, not really hard, but important conversations that when I speak to my friends, none of them had. Or what would be our parenting style? How many kids did we want? Were we equals? Could I work? What was his definition of a happy marriage? So we had all of those conversations prior. So when we did have kids, we knew that we were parentally aligned.
Oh, nice.
So we knew that we were going to do things differently than our parents. So when nightclubs were a no-go and you couldn't dress in a certain way and, you needed to be home by 10 o'clock, we knew that we were going to do things differently because we needed to lie to go out.
And we didn't want our kids
And we didn't want our kids to do that. We wanted our kids to have really authentic relationships with us.
Exactly.
So those conversations were really important because he comes from a very conservative Indian family. And I come from a conservative family, but not as conservative, So Nyenge, everything worked out well in the end. Marrying him was the best risk that I ever took. I don't know what I did in my life, but he really is my blessing.
Oh, wow. But you know what I love? What you just said, especially the counseling, what you call it?
Marriage classes,
marriage classes. We wait for marriage counseling.
I
think there were classes as well, but they called it marriage counseling. We had it with he was a priest when I was growing up, but he was now the bishop. And he said, because I used to go to church when he was a priest, so he's going to marry us. But he said, you have to come for lessons. Yeah, there were lessons. And he would ask us those difficult questions. And sometimes, because we had not thought about them, then he'd be like, okay, homework. When you go driving back to Harare, that's your homework. Next weekend when you come back. And we used to drive to Gweru every Saturday before we got married for those lessons with him. Because he said, I will not marry you without you guys answering these questions. And you're so right. They help you, especially when it comes to parenting was one of the things, because he comes from a very conservative family as well. I come from a very not too conservative family. And, it was getting the two, he's from Chipinge and now I'm coming from a very liberal, kind of thing. So getting us to actually start having those difficult conversations before we got into the home. And it helped a lot. It helped us raise the girls. Like you're talking about going out. We had to lie to go out. I had to lie to go out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my girls to do that. And I would tell them, you can go out. You have to be responsible. You have to be this, but you can go out. And if you think you're going to be out too late, okay, we'll park. And we'll literally go and park. So I get you completely. But on parenting, while we're there, talk to me about your parenting style and how you believe it has helped you to raise the strong women. I'll call them women that you have, because your girls are strong. They're liberal. They're outspoken. But at the same time, I know that you're a fun mom, but you're also not it's okay.
I'm not a walk in the park.
Yes.
I'm not a walk in the park. So
talk to me about that.
I came from a fear-based parenting style, and that worked. So my dad and my mom subscribed to, the ethos that this is my home. This is a home that I have created, or we will live according to my rules. And this is not a democracy. You will do as I say, and you will only really understand this once you have kids of your own. So you can ask questions, but when I say that this is the way it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be. And I got hidings, I got beaten, I got slapped. And I read a very funny saying the other day. I was beaten as a child and I now suffer from a psychological disorder known as respect for others. So I am very grateful to my parents for that kind of upbringing, because it taught me the concept of consequences. It taught me that with every action, there is a consequence. And I don't believe in soft parenting. I'm not judgmental of it, because what didn't work for me may very well work for other parents, I remember with my second daughter, I tried with the naughty corner and the naughty step, and it was an absolute disaster. I locked her in the bathroom for a while, and there was talcum powder and soap everywhere. It was broken bottles. So it just didn't work. And my kids responded to that form of parenting. We also grew up in a home where social justice was front and center. So I told you that we grew up in Cape Town, and my dad opened our home as an ANC safe house. So when the ANC was in exile, we would house ANC activists. So it was a very exciting time to live in. I was very fortunate to live through the dismantling of the apartheid time in South Africa. We had activists building petrol bombs in our garage. We had police storming our home and tear gassing our home while I was doing homework at the table. And that sense of fighting for what's right, I think, has permeated through into my parenting style, with what's going on in the world at the moment. It's very important for my kids to know where they stand on certain issues, that it's not okay to see wars and suffering and injustice and not know what side of that you fall, and where you have questions or where you don't understand those issues, there is a moral obligation to go and educate yourselves. So my kids were raised in a home and very intentionally not to be wusses. I hit them. I grew up with consequences. If you don't like the food that I cooked, I'm not going to cook something else. There's eggs and there's cheese and there's bread. So homie, you make yourself comfortable and see that there's food in your tummy in whatever way, shape or form you want it. But this is what's being cooked tonight.
You're eating.
And whereas my family, certain things was because I said so, I think that my kids deserved explanations in terms of where our heads were at. So yes, you could go to that party, but you can't go to that party. Okay? And you can go and have a play date, but you can't sleep over. But everybody else is doing it, and that's okay. This is why we are not doing it. So it wasn't a punishment. It was, okay, we subscribe to a different set of values. So they understand that now. And I think that they are really grateful that we've taken the route that we have taken.
No, I agree with you completely for that. And, especially the sleeping over, because remember, I was like that. And I was very particular because I think Tara only slept at your house because I was very particular. Like, if you sleep, I need to really know them. I need to have been in their house. I need to make sure that they don't practice any woo stuff in there, and and be very clear about and because I knew you were strict, I was like, good, this one is, so that I think is very important for our kids. And I know a lot of people, I'm not a hitter. I don't hit my kids. I never did.
Yes.
I think I did a little bit, but because I think I was hit so much that it brought trauma to me, it worked opposite for me that we even agreed when we were getting married with my husband that, okay, I can't hit. You become the person who does the hitting. So because I just stood in our home, you hit, I don't,
Yeah.
But not that we didn't have discipline. We had it, but we just decided who was going to do it, And I think as parents, sometimes we try and I think westernize a lot of things, which sometimes don't work for us, And I think you need to be very clear about, like you said, what worked for you, and you're happy with that, and that worked for you.
Nyenge, as parents, we ask ourselves, what are our core roles? What are we wanting to accomplish through our children? Because our parenting really is, and this is where differences of opinion lie, So some parents will say, well, we want to raise really happy children. We want to raise emotionally secure children. I want to raise strong children who can survive in a world that I don't necessarily know it's going to look like the world that I was raised in. So I chose my method of parenting as a route to preparation. So whereas, we've got to raise kids in a way that they are ready for hardship, which means that we cannot protect them from hardship. We've got to raise them in a world to have a voice. So we We have to listen to them. We've got to raise them in a world where rules apply. They are going into workspaces. They are going to work for bosses. They are going to live in different countries who have different laws. So they need to know what adherence and compliance look like. So if we are going to raise our kids in a very permissive kind of environment, what and how are we really preparing them
for the world?
For the world. So that line between strength and adherence is a very fine line. And we got it wrong sometimes, you know, and we acknowledge where we got it wrong. And I learned how to apologize to my children for where I did get it wrong. And that in itself was a parenting lesson that, well, for myself and to them, that there is no shame in apologizing. And if mom can apologize, shit, who am I? Who am I? You know? So, yeah, I think that we've done okay. And our kids, you know, thank God, know their God. We've got really good relationships with them, and they're well on their way to being well-rounded adults.
And I love that. And I think it's so important that, because you know what, when you're a well-rounded adult, when issues then come, you're able to deal with them. And I think one of the key issues that spoken before and that I shunned against in, I think, both our cultures, in your culture and ours, like talking about things like anxiety and depression and everything. Because even I used to talk to the girls that, you know, you need to talk to me about those things. And what are your thoughts around depression, anxiety, and, you know?
So I was diagnosed before I got married with a panic disorder and underlying something called GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder. And of course, back then, before I got married, depression, anxiety was equated with weakness, with an inability to cope. And I was,
because I remember they like say, "Oh, she's moody,"
and just get over it, snap out of it,
yeah,
you know. And I myself battled with my condition, with having the condition. I was a highly functional executive in a really good position, you know, and I didn't feel like I wasn't coping. But all of a sudden, these symptoms started appearing. Butterflies in your tummy and, you know, sort of heart palpitations and tiredness and all of a sudden, you know, I found myself in fact, it wasn't all of a sudden. It was a specific day, and I remember my first panic attack. I remember it so clearly because I was lying on my bed and I was reading a book, and it wasn't even a horror. You know, it wasn't even a thriller. It was a romance, and I was feeling absolutely chilled, calm, and all of a sudden, my heart started beating uncontrollably, and I had this overwhelming, all-encompassing fear that I was going to die. And I was alone at home, and the first thing that I did was I ran out of the house, jumped in my car, and drove myself to hospital because I thought that I was about to die. And it was the most terrifying experience. I mean, I don't actually think that I can articulate the depth of the fear that I experienced in that moment. I got to hospital, and the sense that there was safety in the hospital made things better, but it was a panic attack. And I remember feeling such shame in that moment when this is what they said to me, that this was, you know, it was a panic attack. It was a bout of really heightened anxiety.
But why the shame? Why did you feel?
I felt the shame because to me, that was me not coping. And I was strong, and I was a executive in this high-flying job. And what is this going to do to my situation? You know, because it creeps up on you. And you know, Nyenge, in the therapy that ensued from that, because you need to find the source of it. And that did stem from my childhood. And it stemmed from, and I learned this. I didn't know this when it happened, that I had found, and there's a situation, that I grew up with at home that had a very deep impact on me. So, I've got a sister that's a year younger than me, and we are super close. And she's a epileptic, and I was with her for most of her seizures. And what I didn't know was that I was in a constant sort of flight or fight mode. And that was my existence. That was how I just generally dealt with that situation. And if you don't work through it, whatever your specific trigger is or your specific issue is, it is going to find a place to sit and live in your body, and it is going to manifest in a very physical way.
Absolutely.
So that was my specific, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't, a weakness. It was just the fact that was what was handed to me in my life. And I'm so grateful for it now, Nyenge, because I am strong. I am not depression. I'm not defined by the depression. I am not defined by the anxiety. It is not who I am. It is what happened to me, and it is something that will live alongside me. But I have developed amazing skills to deal with it, to live with it. And
even to feel it coming, because I went through the same, and therapy helped me. You can feel it. Yeah.
The thing is, you can feel it, but you can't always explain it.
Yes.
Okay? And you will know from being somebody with anxiety that it's there, and your first question is, okay, what's different? I didn't feel it last week. So what is different from last week to now? And it could just be your body's way of saying, slow down. There's nothing that happened. You need to take stock. Your cup is empty. Fill your cup. And as moms and busy women, we work. We look after families. We look after staff. We have friends that rely on us. We have extended family members that rely on us. We have a responsibility to ourselves to keep our cups full. Because nobody else is going to make sure
you drink.
Yes.
Nah.
That our cups are full.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to say that I haven't had this episode of anxiety for 12 years.
Wow.
I haven't had a episode of depression for 15 odd years.
Wow.
It's because I honed my coping mechanisms and I kept my cup full. So nobody must come and question me about my weekly massage. Okay? That is a non-negotiable. And I will carry on doing it until the cows come home. Okay? If I want to go on a girls' trip with my friends, I will do that. If I want quiet time to play games on my phone, it is what I'm going to do. Because outside of that, I am conceptualizing business deals. I am improving my business. I am dealing with staff issues. I am, dealing with kids who live across the world. And I need to keep my cup full.
But I love that, and I think a lot of women tend to just want to pour, and then not take time. And then I think that's why you're finding, you see a lot of angry like frustrated women. It's because
Yes.
they're carrying on so much and they're not taking time out. You know?
And the sad thing is that I completely agree with you. They have tasked other people with filling their cup. So it's the husband's responsibility to make you feel happy and fulfilled, or it's your child's responsibility to perform at school, and then by extension, you can claim that glory as your own. You know, it is not your husband's responsibility or your child's responsibility or your friend's responsibility to fill your cup. You know, and also if other people are sapping you more than what you can afford to be, push them away.
Exactly.
You know, there is no glory in having 1,000 so-called friends that absolutely serve zero value.
And zap you of your energy.
Yeah, I mean, I had relationships, you know, with friendships. And Nyenge, my goodness, some of them I felt when I walked away from them, I was looking for a razor just to slit my flipping wrists.
You've been looking for
You know?
You've been looking for a bottle of wine.
Right?
Oh my God. You know, like,
You know, and then at the end of the day, no, it didn't serve me. Yes, I do want to help, but not at the expense of my own peace. So now, you know, I've got the great luxury of seeing who I want to see, when I want to see them. And it needs to be a symbiotic, mutual relationship.
So I love exactly where we are, because I'm just thinking, you know, we had a girls trip now when we turned 50, and one of my friend's sisters said, there's something about a woman when she turns 50. She doesn't give a hoot about anything. They just go on with, tell me what it is about the things that have evolved or changed, or when you look back, the things that you like said, you know what, I actually, from before I was even 50, these are the things that I just started doing. And when I turned 50, it's even, you know.
So that's a very interesting question, because all of a sudden, I'm super invested in looking good. Okay, I don't know if it is the midlife crisis or but I am, and I was very frumpy. I was super overweight, but that's a whole nother conversation. But in my 50s, and as soon as I sort of turned that corner, I started thinking about longevity, and I started thinking about vitality, and I started thinking about aging. And actually, being 50 doesn't mean that I've now got to start wearing granny panties and, you know, now I'm frumpy clothes, and it's okay that I need to, you know, be sort of okay with that tire that's going to form around the waist. And my 50s, or the start of my 50s, I think that I have become even more unapologetic about rules. Who says that because I'm 50,
you can't wear this,
can't go onto Instagram and create content?
Exactly.
For example, who says that that is the domain of the young and your 20s? And, you know, that's absolute BS. There is no, and age is not, you cannot tell me that we look, feel, operate, behave the same as our parents did when they were 50.
Oh no. I remember when my mom was 50, I had 13. My daughter was like, I think a year old. I looked at that picture, I was like, oh my gosh, she looked old.
Yes. Yes. You know, so we are a different breed. We are a different generation. So I think that I'm very intentional about not following conforms of how I should be doing things according to my age. You know, I'm all of a sudden become very brave and bold about it. Doesn't look like this now.
I know
with my dressing.
Yeah,
you know?
I know why. But I'm brave. I'm very like,
you know. So I'll wear a pea cap with fur coat and, I'm not afraid of color now. And I'm quite excited about finding my own kind of style and trying out new things and sort of just vibing with fashion. I'm obviously not naturally blonde, but hair as well. And to answer your question, I think that's where I'm at. I've become adventurous. I've become brave. I've become curious. At a time where people don't associate your 50s with curiosity and new journeys.
Someone's just sitting and being just waiting to die. Literally.
Yes, and it. But there's so much that I still want to learn.
Exactly.
So I am embracing my vitality.
I'm loving that, and there's something you spoke about that, you're so invested in looking good and everything. But you kind of like touched and then you left and you said you talk about it later, that you were frumpy. Take me there.
So I'm actually going to share a photograph with you that you can share with your listeners because I'm going to own that 150%. So I was over 100 kgs. And after I had all of my babies, I thought, no, man. How did I get to this? I was pregnant for the first 10 years of my marriage. So I also attribute my excess weight to my husband. Why? Because whenever I said to him, babe, does my bum look big in this? He would say to me, no, you look wonderful. And if only, anyway, he had to pay for the bariatric surgery because that is the route that I went. So I decided that enough is enough. I want to be healthy. I wasn't exactly the poster child of an example for my business. And I wanted to turn my health around. So I had a gastric bypass.
How old were you when you had it?
So I had my gastric bypass in 2018, Nyenge. How old does that make me? Are you any good at math? So that must have been 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I was...
When you... Not
sort of
46.
46.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 46. And I decided that I'm going to do this for myself. And it was, without a doubt, after marrying my husband, the best decision that I could have made for myself. It was life-changing.
I remember seeing, because I knew you before, because I remember you just had your son and everything. And then next minute, I'm like, Sana. But what I loved when I asked you, were you very quick to tell me what you did? You're like, because you went quiet for a while because no one saw you at school and everything. Then all of a sudden you were like, so I thought maybe you were gone for some health retreat. And you're like, no, I was recovering. But and the judgment that came with that, how did you take that? And what would you advise other women who feel they want to do it?
So funnily enough, I have met women in Zimbabwe who have had the same operation, and I have not met one single one that has said to me, I'm going to tell people what I'm doing. It was a big, dirty secret. And I found that very sad because this lady has just gained from my experience, and she now feels empowered. She feels a little bit safer. She feels a little bit more comfortable knowing that she's not alone in this journey. And, oh my goodness, I don't have to walk it alone, And I can't quite wrap my head around why anybody would go to these lengths and not own it. Because it's not an easy decision. It's not a light decision to go through major surgery. So why not own the bravery of that decision and what is still to come? I'm not quite sure if I'm answering your question, Nyenge. But I was very intentional about sharing my journey. And I think those years of caring what people thought have long gone. It's my body. It's my money. It's my decision. So yeah, what right does anybody really have to weigh in on that? You know, yes, there were people that said she's taken the easy way out. And anybody who's had a gastric bypass will tell you that it's not easy.
I was about to say that. I was like, no.
It's not a quick fix. I still watch what I eat. I still train 4 to 5 times a week. Because you can put that weight on. So it allows you a reboot. It's a launch pad to a better life, a better body. But make no mistake, you have got to put the work in to keep it like that. So if anybody wants to know more about the bariatric surgery, I'm more than happy to share where I went to, who I, did the operation with, and what my experience was. It was really easy for me. My recovery was really easy.
Really?
I had my surgery, let's say today, and spent one night in hospital, and I walked out of hospital to Macro in Johannesburg and did shopping for, what I was going to eat. And so would I advocate for it? 150%. If somebody is really battling with conditions like metabolic syndrome, where you've had polycystic ovaries as a child and you have an insulin problem, and bariatric surgery has evolved from when I had my operation to now. Things have changed.
Wow.
So it's been life-changing. And I have not met one person who's gone this route that has said to me, I regret it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And I think what's so important is, and how you've just put it, to say you can do it. It's your body, it's your money. You want to do it, because I think there's a lot of shame around going for plastic surgery.
So again, it's really sad. And I think that this new generation of women, we still have a window in which to be warriors. So in our 50s and 60s, we still have young women looking to us to be an example. And if I could say anything to the woman looking at us, there is so much freedom in being unapologetic about good decisions. And, plastic surgery, I've had plastic surgery. I've had a tummy tuck. I've had a thigh lift. Of course, because after the weight loss, you had all of this sagging skin, and I didn't want to look at my body and feel ashamed or feel that I wanted to hide from my husband. I wanted to walk boldly and proudly in a bikini on a beach. So was I going to go for that surgery? Hell yes. And if I need a nip and a tuck later on, you better bet your bottom dollar that is exactly what I'm going to go for. And everybody's version of aging gracefully is different.
It's different, right?
So if you feel that going gray and letting your wrinkles set in is how you want to age, knock yourself out, cupcake. It's not for me. I am going to have the nip. I'm going to have the tuck. I'm going to do what makes me feel comfortable when I look in the mirror. So whoever judges me, thank God it's not you looking back at me from my mirror.
Because you, wherever you are.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I think it's so important that, and I think empowering women to make bolder decisions, that they know they've made a good decision about themselves, instead of making decisions based on what are people going to say, And I think that's a problem with a lot of us.
It is. And if you look at your daughters and I look at my daughters, there is an emergence of a new mindset. I don't think that our daughters give 2 tosses or as many tosses as what we maybe gave in our formative years. They are bolder. They are more outspoken. They are unapologetic. And I look at women today in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s, where there is still this kind of, need for affirmation
and validation,
from people that add absolutely no value to their lives. So it doesn't mean that everything that you want to do is right. You first need to have a sound moral compass. You need to know what is right and what is wrong, and when you operate from that point of, I'm God-fearing, I know that what I do, I'm accountable for. I know that what I'm doing is good for me and it's not going to hurt anybody else. Why lie to anybody else?
Oh, that's so true. I could go on. There's just so much stuff that I wanted us to touch on, but I know we're running out of time. So I'm going to ask you some fun questions before we close off. But oh my gosh, you know what? When you come back to Zim or when I come to Cape Town, we need to do a part 2 because there's so many things that I think we can talk about, really, because we're both in the 50s and also just coming from our backgrounds and what we've seen, because there are a lot of women out there who are hungry for honest conversations, because a lot of people are not having these honest conversations with women. And I have women who inbox me, young ladies, like in their 30s, who are early married. And they're like, oh, I was so shocked that, like, on my birthday, I was so shocked that you're like 52. I mean, you don't dress like that. And you thought, but how do you do it? Because if I do it, because then people say this, people say I must behave my age. And I was like, what is to behave your age?
Yeah.
Explain to me what is to be. So I think we have to really go deeper with this conversation. So Farzana, before we close off, I just want some fun questions with you. What's your favorite color and why?
So my favorite color is definitely black. And I think that the color is black because it's a canvas and it gives me room to create a mood, a picture, and it makes me feel strong.
No. I like that part. I like the strong as well. And black is elegant, right?
Black is elegant and black is sultry and black is maybe mysterious.
Very. I was about to say black is very mysterious as well, My daughter said to me the other day, Mom, because I don't like sugar. I don't take sugar in anything. And then I said, I drink coffee, black, no sugar. I want my drink. I don't like sweet stuff, whatever. And she says, Mom, my friend, my roommate, housemate in the UK, she also likes like bitter stuff. There's probably a dark side to it. I was like, what do you mean, honestly? But anyway, I'll throw that in.
Yes, no comment from the peanut gallery.
What's your favorite animal and why?
My favorite animal, Nyenge, I think that would need to be a lion.
Why a lion?
So I have a draw towards lions. I think I admire the elegance of it. I think I admire the strength of it. I think that the lion is the king of the jungle without having to proclaim it's the king of the jungle. A lion is strong and has a presence. So I would say without a doubt, a lion is my favorite animal.
Oh, yeah. I love that as well. For obvious reasons. Tell me, which book has made a huge impact in your life that you read and said, sure, the nuggets in this book?
Oh, my goodness, Nyenge, you're catching me absolutely unawares now. So I've actually read so many. But I would have to say that the book that's changed my life the most is probably the Quran. And it's the place that I go to find solace. So it's actually taught me a lot about Christianity. And it's taught me that religions are actually about our similarities and not about our differences. So I've learned a lot about Christianity from the Quran. And I've learned that God speaks to us in different ways, and that the Quran is where I go to to find my peace.
Oh, I love it. Okay, great. And one song that when it comes on, you're just like, wow.
I Will Survive. It's Gloria Gaynor and I Will Survive. Yes.
And one
not giving away my age.
Yeah. No, but it's such a you know there are those songs that when they play, they just give you that extra boost that you're needing. And a movie that your all-time favorite movie that you've watched.
Can I choose two?
Okay, two.
So the one is Dead Poets Society, which I ugly cried.
I was about to say, do you know when I watched that, I cried.
There were so many life lessons in there, and I don't think I'll ever forget the impact that
it made me so sad.
Dead Poet Society had on me. And then Pretty Woman.
You know, right? I think after Pretty Woman, all of us wanted a Richard Gere life. I mean,
at least we all didn't take to the streets.
I know, right? I love Pretty Woman. I mean, I think it's one of those movies that even today, if it was there, I'll just watch it. You know, I'll just watch it again. It was such a wholesome movie. You know,
feel good.
It's really
a feel good
movie. So if you get home and you've had an exhausting day, either at the gym or at work, and you know, what's your way of relaxing? How do you say, "Oh, this is what I do when I get home and relax"?
Oh my God, Nyenge. No judgment, but I will kick my shoes off. I will lie on my bed and I'll play Candy Crush.
Oh my God! Oh my dear, the Candy Crush team.
I get lost in mindless games. And I'm a buffoon for training my brain as well. So I play brain games. I do a crossword every day. I do a Sudoku every day. But when I need to unwind and I don't want to see anybody and I don't want to hear anybody's stories, I literally, because my bed is my most favorite place in the world, and I play Candy Crush unapologetically.
Wow. So you know my husband, he does. You know, like sometimes he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's finished his prayers. Next minute, he's on Candy Crush. And I'm like, what level are you on? And my sister as well, my cousin's sister, she's another one. And you should see them. And I'm like, what are you doing? Candy Crush. So here you are. I found another Candy Crush fan. Oh my gosh. I just don't get it. You know, I don't get it. I don't get Candy Crush at all.
But that's the point. You're not supposed to get it. It's mindless. It's absolutely mindless.
Oh my gosh. And what's when you say that let's say you've come to the end of life and you're about to transcend, what is the one thing that you can say, you know what, I'm ready to go because I've done what?
I think it would be the sense that God is happy with me, that I've lived my life in an honorable, righteous way, and that I've treated people well, and that when people think of me, they'll think of me warmly, and that they will be happy that our paths crossed.
Oh my, I love that. I love that. And if you were to give someone 5 life lessons from your 50 odd years on this world, on this planet Earth, what are the 5 key lessons that you feel helped to build a person or has helped you to be who you are?
Number 1, know God. That will permeate through every aspect of your life. So know God, remember God. The second lesson I would say is work hard. So forget entitlement. Know that God is there, but you need to play your role. Work hard and have a good work ethic. Number 3, I would say, is be good to other people. So treat other people the way that you yourself would want to be treated. I know, so for some people who may be watching this, they know me to be a tough employer, to be a tough person. But that's only because I know people can do better than they do sometimes.
Absolutely.
And it's not my way not to call people out on their stuff. So be good to people. Number 4, find joy in life. So as much as things happen to you and you succumb to certain scenarios and conditions in your life, like we did with anxiety and depression, and celebrate the good stuff and don't let the bad stuff define who you are. And I think the last one is that strength is not always loud. Strength is not always being right. And sometimes strength lies in quietly watching.
I love that. I love that. Those are beautiful. If we've packed our bags and we have our passports on our way to the airport, where are we flying off to?
Girlfriend, we are going to somewhere that is hot, that is sandy, that has got crystal clear blue waters with amazing food. That is where we're going.
Wow. I like the food part and the clear water. I love that. I was actually saying when we went to Zanzibar beginning of this year that I haven't seen like clear blue water in a while until
yes. So because I've got Menopause Brain, so we're going to park Menopause for when we meet again.
We need to talk about that.
There's a place in, and I'll let you know what it's called, but there's a place in French Polynesia. And it's a little island that is on my bucket list. And because I've got Menopause Brain at the moment, I can't for the life of me remember what it is.
I get you completely because, I'm so bad these days. Sometimes I wonder. I got it to the extent sometimes I have to write because I'll get out, I'll go, and I'll come back and I'll like, what was I supposed to be doing? And before I couldn't understand it. The other day I was literally looking for my phone and I was on the phone. I was like, oh, what is this? This Menopause Brain. But please do tell me. It would be lovely for us to have that, so people can know, because some people don't know different countries and everything. So yeah, you must give it to me. Then we add it on to the notes at the bottom of the thing.
Okay, great.
Farzana, it's just been so amazing having you today. We could go on and on and on, and we still need to go on. We need to have a part 2 where we're going to talk about menopause, where we're going to unpack quite a lot of things that I really want us to unpack. But can you just give one word to our viewers as we go out for the week?
For all of those viewers who've watched this, I hope that when you close your screen from this lovely interaction and chat with you, Nyenge, that you feel hopeful and that you feel a little bit stronger and a little bit bolder and a little bit more comfortable in your skin, and just know that everything is going to be okay.
Absolutely. Farzana, thank you. And to our viewers, as you're going into the week, just remember what Farzana said, and everything is going to be okay. Even it might not look like it today, it's going to work out. It's going to be okay. And I'll see you guys next week. Have an amazing week.